Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Skura, also known as Islands in Front, and today we'll be talking about the Pauper metagame tier list for the upcoming Paupergeddon at the end of November. So in 2 weeks. And yeah, let's take a look. Now, it's going to be very similar to one of the tier lists I have already done in the past. Link down below if you want to watch it and kind of compare the metagames. But I will, as a reminder, tell you what my grading is, because typically we've got SABC, but there is a very particular method to it. And so it talks about popularity. It's not about strength, objective, or otherwise. It's about popularity, because when you go to a tournament, what you care about is the popularity of the decks you're going to face. And so S is clearly most popular. A is top competitive pillar, which is basically a deck that you absolutely have to prepare for somehow, because you will face it and you will have to get through it if you want to day 2, go do well then, maybe even top 8. B is, I wouldn't be surprised not to play against it, but I wouldn't be surprised to face it, and it's going, you should probably expect to play against some of these decks within your day 1, day 2. C exists, which is even a like it's very reasonable you're going to face it, but you don't really have to prepare for it that much, or you shouldn't, because it's not going to be that popular. And then C is just, yes, we know these are real decks, but you shouldn't really expect to face them. So given that, this is what my team and I have come up with. Okay, so in the niche category, maybe some notable inclusions. I have actually put Heroic there, because I think it has become more than just a complete fringe lord. Bogles, Fogtron, Dredge, the different variations of blue, red, blue, black, Terra, blue, black fairies with the Modern Age, Cycle Storm, different variations of the Synth decks and the Blade decks. So this is in the D tier. But the actual, what's interesting, starts from C and up, because that's something you actually start taking into consideration somehow. And so, in the C tier, I've got right to left, and there is the graduation, like leftmost is the most popular within that tier. Black Sacrifice, reasonable deck. Blue-black Fairies, this is just a tile in Italian, I think, but it's blue-black Fairies. White Weenie, which has seen some play recently in the challenges. Corgates, which has really benefited from the High Tide ban. Jeskai Control, which is there purely because we're playing in Italy. Cheers to my Italian friends. Altatron, which I also expect to be relatively popular, because it's a go-over deck, which is great against other mid-range decks like Giant Wildfire. And then Gruul Monsters, because Gruul is, it's like a fun favorite, it seems, even though not many people like to play against it. Could be Gruul Monsters, Land Destruction. But yeah, just in general, Gruul, which on a good day can do really, really well, especially if you expect those Tron decks and these Corgates deck to come back, right? So it's a very intertwined, matrix of decks. And now B tier where it really starts getting juicy. And this is where I put Familiars, and typically they're not really popular. If you look at Mono challenges, they're also not very popular. But if you actually look at the previous Geddon, it had the best win rate, the best conversion, although the sample wasn't that big, but still. And it actually won the top Pauper player of the year. So there is something there, definitely. And I know a lot of very, very strong players are going to play FAMs this tournament as well. So definitely on my radar at the B tier. BG Gardens, which I expect to be bumped up. Like previously, I would have put it probably in D or bottom of C. But here, it both got a ban of High Tide and it got an uptick of Jund, or at least perceived uptick of Jund. So bad matchups, bye-bye. Fine matchup, come in, right? I think this is the moment for the BG Gardens players to shine. And on top of that, it actually won two Geddons back. So people might actually re-sleeve that deck. And from we know, Italian players love interaction, love mid-range, love value. So they might actually jump from Jund to Gardens just as a throwback and to have a solid matchup against Jund itself as a kind of emblem deck with initiative and monarch. Bushburn, which is rally, mono red rally basically, and that's a deck that was put on the map heavily since last Geddon, where Fracom, my teammate, cheers, top forward actually the Geddon with Rally Red, and it has been pretty popular since. I do think that compared to other red decks, it's still a tier lower popularity wise, but it's a very, very solid choice, and I would not be surprised to face it at all. Elves. Elves is another one that people just love. People love their small green creatures, and the good selling point is that it's very good into blue decks, which is again very good point. However, it's definitely unhappy with the popularity of red decks, with potentially BG Gardens, and and mainly the Madness deck, which is, as I've heard, unwinnable. So taking Elves to Geddon when one of the top decks is completely unwinnable for you is definitely risky, but again, I wouldn't be surprised to see that. Then Grixis Affinity, which is lower than last time. Last time I put it is like solidly A tier, but I didn't believe how much the Jund players will play Jund and forsake Grixis, and they have. And even though there has been some modo uptick in Grixis specifically, this is why it's in B, because otherwise it would probably be borderline C. So this is why it is in B in the first place, actually top of the B. And then we go to the A pillars, which is 2 red decks, 2 blue decks, end. So when it comes to red decks, I think Madness Burn, where I understand it as mono red Madness with Lava Dart and Gutter Snipe, is going to be supremely popular and the red deck of choice. It's clean. It has a solid spread of matchups. Can win against a ton of different decks. Can put up a very good fight against Jund, against any blue deck, against any deck really. If you can turn 4 kill them with Gutter Snipe, or sometimes even turn 3 kill them. So with solid interaction all the way through, card selection, etc. So Madness Burn at the very top of the pile. And I think it's going to be the choice for a lot of aggressive players. Then we've got Mono Blue Terra and Mono Blue Fairies, and I think in this order specifically. Mono Blue Terra higher than Fae, even though last game it was the reverse, which I didn't really expect, but it seems that the Fae propaganda has really picked up and, overtook Terra. But I think people seeing the results of MTGO will be convinced to play Terra, because it's played by a couple of very, very strong players, but also players, and has a ton of challenge top 8s and wins, and even tournaments higher than challenges. Now Fae also has a decent number of results, has a very decent following, and there will be people who will bring fairies. There might be some as the blue deck of choice and as the deck of choice. So I do expect Mono Blue Terra and Mono Blue Fairies combined to be like 15%-ish at Geddon. We'll see if that checks out. And there's also 6 land Spy, or just Spy, in the, 5, 6, just Spy in this variety that's played nowadays, which is Wall Spy. Wall Spy wasn't really a contender the previous Geddon, so we don't really have data on this. We had some data on some land Spy, but Wall Spy wasn't a thing. And this is the first Geddon it's going to be. So I'm really curious to see the results of that. We might see Elf Spy here and there, but I fully expect Wall Spy to be the combo deck of the top tier, and then the deck to contend with, really. And then Rakdos Burn, I think, is going to be popular because players really like the deck. Personally, I don't think that it's that good, and I think it wouldn't make the B tier if that was a power level tier list, which it's not. It's popularity, and I do think it's going to be decently played. And the C tier, clearly most popular, I think, is going to be Jund. And then last time, I wasn't really that convinced whether to put any deck in the S tier, popularity-wise. However, last Geddon, Jund was like 15% alone, just Jund, compared to, let's say, Blue Terra and Fairies, where you have to combine them to get even close to that number. And now I think the deck is going to have even more steam, with the high tide ban. I don't think the meta macro-wise will reshape too much. Like, this is like, if I told you my A plus S tier decks, you would say, yeah, sure, because, you know, good decks are good. No surprise there. And we'll see if there's going to be any ripple effects. At Geddon specifically, if you don't have a good matchup against Junt, I really don't suggest you have a draw, intentional or otherwise. And Junt players, I highly suggest you don't take a draw, intentional or otherwise, because you will be in the draw bracket playing the mirror. So this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. I think this is what you're going to have to be prepared for. Junt, then we've got Madness, Blue, Spy, Wall Spy, and then Rakdos Burn. And then to finish off, let's say the higher tier is Affinity, Elves, Rally Red, another red deck, BG Gardens, and Familiars. And then again, the C tier sprinkled in. So, this is my tier list. I will release a separate Mono Blue Fairies matchup tier list next week, where I'll assess how fairies fare against this is exactly what you're seeing here. So we will workshop through what's on screen here. Mainly focusing on the S plus B, right? Because this is what I really care about. But I'll also talk about this in the next video. So this is my official tier list. Islands in front. Bam. There you go. And I'm really curious to see what the actual results are. We'll see at the Geddon. We'll see the numbers. We'll see the meta. And then I will re-record this video. Oh, record another one. Discussing how right I was or was not. And yeah, as always, please remember to hold my hand and pass the turn together. And I will see you next time. Cheers.